Hey, we want to thank Bill.com for being a sponsor of the Thrivecast. Our firm, Blummer CPAs, has used Bill.com as a foundational part of our tech stack for many, many years. We're a virtual firm and we work with clients virtually all over the U.S. And so we have to have a virtual platform like Bill.com. So thank you, Bill.com, for sponsoring the Thrivecast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thrivecast. We've been doing this for many years, and we always bring on great guests that teach us how to run a firm, how to grow a firm. These kind of things are difficult to do, and all of our listeners have been doing it for many years. So it's something it's tough for me and Julie in our firm to do, and we know for listeners too. So we bring on people that can actually give us some advice and just talk through the journey of growth. And we're going to have a great guest come, with us today, James Graham. He's the founder of Richtr Financial Studio. And they have offices, in a few very different places. So James grew up in the Chicago area, earned a degree in accounting from North Illinois University, later rounded out some experience with a psychology degree, which is cool. And so in his career, he's been in Chicago, Denver with Deloitte, included leading some, audit field work for Fortune 500 engagements. So just has tons of different experiences, worked in a variety of CFO, finance capacities, all kind of things. And we're going to find out is actually a world traveler too. So I'm excited to invite James Graham to the Thrivecast. Thanks, James, for joining us on the Thrivecast. I really appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Very cool. So, James, Julie and I were talking with you not long ago, and you're kind of a world traveler. You have a background you were telling us about. You're a climber? Isn't that what you were saying? You kind of went around the world. You climbed rock climbing, I guess, in different places. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I used to, kind of early, I kind of had my early start to my career in public accounting and just worked very intensely in that for a few years. And then I was really, in a sense, kind of seeking, looking to learn, about the world, learn about myself. And so I basically was doing a fair amount of climbing, then just started climbing all over during a kind of a 3-year stint. So I started with an expedition in Nepal on one of the 8,000 meter peaks. And after that, went and traveled through Bangladesh and India, actually worked in Mother Teresa's House of the Dying, which was kind of a truly amazing experience. Actually, it's kind of, really, thought provoking in so many ways, and just very profound. And just learned a lot during that period. And so after that, and went to a bunch of meditation retreats in India and just did that. And then I had another expedition on Aconcagua in Patagonia, South America. So went back and did that trip. And then after that trip, for a couple more months, then I kept traveling in South America, went up to Ecuador, was living there, ended up meeting my wife there who's English. So we were... And then after that, went down the Amazon, climbed Aconcagua again, then back to the U.S. And, kind of I think it's like a lot of people's, that's kind of probably distinct from a lot of people, but, its career paths are often pretty squiggly lines when it comes to it. And so I circle back, and at that point, I actually went and got a second degree in accounting because I was thinking of doing, kind of mixing accounting and business or psychology and business. And so after that, checked it out. But then after it was at the same time had a wife, a kid, building a house. I just didn't have the fire in me to go and do a PhD program at that point. And so at that point, I actually circle back, and that's really when I started, Richtr Financial Studio about 20 years ago. And so it was kind of a really circuitous route.
And I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself, but you after all that, you came back to accounting because you did it at first. came back to accounting, but you were interested and got a psychology degree at that point. And then, I didn't know you were going to do PhD program possibly, but then you rolled into running a firm, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah. And, the interesting thing about it is, early on when I was working in the kind of the big corporate jobs, I was doing it and I was working hard at it and striving, but I didn't love it, and then eventually, with having a firm, it's certainly challenging. I wouldn't say it's pure love, but it has lots of, never ending challenges, but I definitely came to really love and appreciate, the value of, client advisory services over time. And so, it's been a journey from starting with one person, now we have 25. We're thinking about trying to move towards 50, but,
wow.
Yeah, it's been a squiggly line career journey, and still in progress.
Still squiggling, right? That's how we do it.
Yeah.
So, well, where did Richtr Financial Studio come from? That title, that must mean something,
right? So one of the things I wanted to do, rather than build a company named around me as the person, I wanted to start a firm that I wanted to build a brand, and didn't want it to be about me. And so we started a process with one of our clients, a creative firm, and during the process, they kind of helped us formulate what our ideas were of what our brand was. And so we, kind of threw out a lot of ideas, and essentially they, with their help, we came up with Richtr Financial Studio, with the idea that Richtr is kind of a little bit, something to build around. It's not, it's kind of, we help make our clients maybe richer.
I see.
It's the Richtr scale. We're kind of creating movement, energy, but it's, it's not a normal word. And then Financial Studio, we really like that element because the idea is we're not, a traditional accounting firm. We're a firm that's helping bring creative, forward-looking strategy for our clients. It's not just about, compliance work and turning the crank. It's really about, there's a creative element there. And so that's why we like Financial Studio.
Yeah, cool. The studio piece is really cool. Like that's like you don't see accounting firms named a studio.
Right.
So that's really cool. But I know what you're saying. The work we do in advisement is really creative, right? So it's actually helping entrepreneurs that we serve, come to understand they can be creative in the work we do and the work we can do as firm owners as well. So I'm curious. So there was a point at which I was running a firm, and it was a hard slog at some point. But Julie came to be my partner, and she really just can't help but love people and care about people. And so I really learned from her to go, wow, I'm so grateful for this team. And it makes me want to ask you, did some of the journeys you went through in climbing and working at Mother Teresa's place and the psychology degree, did that lean you in more to the people part of this work? Or how did that change you as a leader, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it was, you learn a lot just, traveling in general. It's like dog years. It's like every year is like 7 years in one. And so there was just a lot of experiences, and you also just learn a lot about people. One of the biggest ones is just realizing how well off we are and how much we shouldn't take for granted what we have, whether it's, our quality of life, at so many levels, to our, political system, and so I don't know if that, a little bit it guided me as a firm, but a little bit just helped me a lot with, understanding what's important with people and what drives people. And, you just get, people are coming, when you travel, you find out that assumptions you had about the world and life aren't necessarily globally held. And you learn from that, these different ways of operating and so forth.
So it challenges you. Obviously, our perspective is challenged. And I guess when that happens enough, you start to go, maybe I don't actually see everything perfectly through my own lens. And then maybe questioning your own lens sometimes is a pretty healthy step to becoming really more of an empathetic leader, I guess. Are Is that some of the stuff you experience too?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think it's, we're always learning and growing as people, but it's a little bit, it helped me understand, it helped me move along,
Yeah.
in terms of my personal development, and also helping, understand some of my blind spots, and just trying to grow as a person, and just
Yeah.
what's important in life.
Yeah.
So.
That's good stuff. So I want to kind of talk about your kind of your background in leading firms. So you've actually led small firms, you've led work in larger firms, and then you went and started your own firm. What's changed as you operate a larger firm and your firm, like the operational part of how you run this organization, whether the large one and the small one? Maybe what did you notice that you wanted to do different when you started Richtr Financial Studio?
Right. Well, I mean, I guess compared to the larger firms, kind of working with, the, huge accounting firms are great places to get experience,
Yeah.
particularly seeing a lot. But it's so hard to scale an organization big and not lose the heart, not lose
Right.
service, not lose the essence of what you're doing. And so that's kind of something we're always trying to work on to build in, is that CX, as we call it, it's called a client experience, and just trying to think about how are we doing that for our clients, and and we also think of it internally as we employee experience, or EX, just how,
Nice.
what can we do? And it's just this constant process of just trying to, not lose the essence of what's important, of our values, and how do we really meet their needs where they are, and the needs evolve. It's not the same. Technology is changing, and there's a lot of things changing in the world, so we can't just stay still. We got to keep innovating, keep moving forward.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, the CX, the client experience, and the EX. I've heard of CX. I haven't heard of the EX, employee experience. Obviously, we're trying to do that as we care about our team. Like, we've noticed the labor market. Well, I think everybody knows it's more difficult to hire right now, but even our team struggle in ways they didn't before. And some may not necessarily, but do you see that across the board, that team feel different about their work now? And the pandemic, I don't know, it readjusted what people thought about their own personal life, and we're seeing that play out in their work now. Is that something you're seeing too, or have seen over the past 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's, pre-COVID, I think, we were, was pre-COVID, and all of a sudden, in a very short period, most everyone is moving to working fully remotely. Luckily we were pretty well set up for it already, but there were still a lot of adjustments that were needed. And, from a people perspective, I think the isolation, and just the whole, it pushed a lot of people emotionally, and, in a lot of different ways. It just kind of is disconnected people, and, and clients, and, there's all sorts of strains, all sorts of people had fears from COVID. People had, all sorts of, some people, are, had losing family. And so there's all sorts of stresses and strains and uncertainties during that period. And, when we're going to get through it. And I think we're sort of coming out of it, but it doesn't mean we're not. It doesn't feel like it's kind of, I'll just call it pre-COVID. Not that we're going to go back, but it, there's just a lot more turmoil in a lot of ways. A lot of supply chain items, got messed up, and just the whole, a lot of our rhythm that we had probably set over a long period of time was, completely disrupted. And some of it we're putting back in a completely different way, and some of it we're, reestablishing in terms of who we are and relationships and so forth. And so from a team perspective, that's something we're trying to make sure we don't lose is, we're working on a hybrid. We have few people that are remote. The rest of our team, we're working on a hybrid basis where they, work a couple days, at least a couple days in the office. So we get a little bit of connection and trying to have different events. But, our team is such an important part of who we are and how we deliver services. And if we lose that, it's we could be fully remote, but it's a little more challenging to be 100% remote, without having some I don't know, some glue there. But some firms I think do it well, so I don't want to say it can't be done. We've just found that hybrid is helps build team.
Yeah, well, it's definitely tough. I think my dad started our firm 25 years ago, and it was just a traditional small firm. We had an office, and we went virtual about 8 years ago, fully 100% virtual.
Right. Yep.
And it was tough, man. I didn't understand really the culture that you had to invest in, and Julie, my partner, would say it's like 10x. If you want to build a culture in a virtual firm, it is all intentional. You can't do any of that accidentally by walking by people going to get a cup of coffee. It has to be intentionally planned and done, which can be exhausting sometimes.
Right.
And so you got to really care about that team and culture in a way to really make those investments, which it sounds like y'all are doing, but you want the hybrid piece because you want humans being in the same room together. Because that's a great culture builder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to some extent, there is no substitute for meeting. And some hybrid firms meet, for example, quarterly, or they do various things. There's a lot of ways you can do it. There's no necessarily one right way, but we have 3 different offices right now in Boulder, Denver, and San Diego, and so those are almost where people do meet in person. And then at the same time, we do have some people in other parts of the country that are fully remote. But some people really need that environment also. They need, they have small children, and they, they don't understand when, mom or dad's working, and to have a productive environment, they need that place to go. And then, we find it helpful for the people that want to be in the office, as well as, people that really want to have a fair amount of autonomy. We provide both of those, as well as some fully remote. So it's a work in process. I wouldn't say it's, I don't have all the answers. We're working through it. So.
Well, it's hybrid. It's hybrid, like you say. Like, we're a fully virtual firm, but 5 years ago, I had to start going to a co-work space that's, I had to leave the house and go to a space to work where I'm completely not distracted, fully focused, because to grow and lead a firm that's getting larger takes an immense amount of focus and dedication. And so even that, though, is part of the hybrid and the virtual model. You can actually work at home, or you can work in a co-work, or you can do a hybrid. So there's so many different ways to do it. And it sounds like y'all are trying to figure out how to build it in a way that's best for each team member, which is not perfectly done. But I guess do you restrict the way that you hire or who you hire? Like, will you not hire in certain states, or will you go, this position probably needs to be in this office? Do you think about certain roles that can't be virtual? Right.
Well, some roles, some specialty roles are really hard to hire, for sure, for certain in a given market. So we think more nationally with that. In other roles, like, operations type things, where we're trying to pull a lot together, where there's a lot of need for collaboration, it really helps to have that person be in-house, So I'm in my office here in Boulder right now. We have, the operations manager is typically here most of the time. And it really helps because there's a million discussions and impromptu kind of things that need to happen. Whereas other people, it's less important, but I think to some extent it's really important for them just to connect with other people, that are, from a mentoring perspective. I think of someone coming out of university and they haven't worked in an office environment. And I think what is the environment for them just working in kind of a desk in their bedroom, or, trying to kind of get connected and learn a lot about what they need to do to be successful. And I just think it can be more challenging just being almost on an island. And, in terms of the mentoring you get, and, the mentoring, the training, the collaboration, just the
Yeah.
nonverbal, the interaction that you learn through the process. But yeah, a little bit, that's maybe fully the reality all of us are in the future.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Do you think there, I know you probably can't define this, but is there a team size that's too big to not be the customer experience focused firm that you want it to be? Like you said, large firms are really difficult to keep that heart. Where's the limit? Where's the level? Do you
Right.
know, or do you have thoughts about what that team size limit is?
Right. Well, I mean, right now we're a team of 25, and I think of from a planning perspective, I think of growing from 25 to 50. What do we have to do? Because
Okay.
I'm always thinking of how how you build a team in terms of two things. What are the opportunities you're trying to capture? What do you need to do to capture those opportunities? And what do you need to do to avoid the growth ceilings that are going to hold you back?
Yeah.
And so therefore, kind of moving forward to create the structure and the roles and the systems that will be able to do that. And so as you move from, let's say as we move from 20 to 50, we're starting to focus more, we have a few different niche focuses or vertical focuses. So we're started focusing a little within our team of breaking down, our team in terms of the focus area that they're working in.
I see.
And so you can't, another way to think of it is you can do things and turn the crank a little bit and keep things moving in a good way. But then you hit a ceiling, you have to think, how do you restructure it? And sometimes it's bringing in new people with a whole new role that you didn't have before. That will unlock things. It's also about helping to, it's how you structure your team. I know some firms start building subgroups. They may have one complete different group from another. And I guess that's a little bit the point we're reaching, where we're doing that a little bit and having partners that are handling different roles and so forth. So some of our structuring is changing to meet the needs of our clients as well as to, keep the quality for our clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess as we see firms get larger, they do tend to break into departments, right? So the big four there's just a big tax wing of the whole business, and so I guess larger businesses, especially human-centered businesses like a firm, is very human driven, and so it starts to break into departments because you gotta somehow manage the flow, I guess, of the information and knowledge with people who have the context to understand it. And it sounds like you're kind of leaning into that structure, but you're breaking it up by different focuses with your market, I guess, which is interesting. Okay, not tax, but particularly professional services or biotech, or I can't remember the other focuses you have.
Like aerospace defense, and GovCon and ERP systems is one, and life science, for example, is another. So we're trying to focus, it's really kind of coming, what are the clients' needs? They need people. If we're going to be an advisory first firm, how do we provide advisory that is valuable if we're not focusing on what our clients' needs and building our solutions around our clients' needs?
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're letting the market dictate a little bit of the structure of what the firm needs to be to keep serving in these focuses that you've decided to focus on. Okay.
Building our services around the clients. It's
that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, how do you think it's interesting when we grow? A lot of times we're thinking, okay, we got to readjust our structure because we're bigger. What's not working needs to change. And a lot of times we may have to create a brand new role that's never been there, and which you just mentioned a minute ago. What do you think about when you do that? Like, how do you know it's time to create a new role? And if you think what do you do next to create the new role to let you keep growing in a sustainable way?
Right. No, it's a great question because that's one of the keys you have to think about to grow a firm. A few things. One thing I think about is when it was really early. I started the firm with me, and essentially I sort of kept creating roles out of things that I could move off to someone else. And it's funny because the first person I hired was actually one of the scariest business decisions I made, just having an employee. And, because it's just such a leap going from one to
huge.
someone else. But, there's a couple ways I think, and I think this applies to, what we can advise our clients on is to think about what is your essential highest value in the business and what could you have someone else do? And so the first role I had was someone that could do some of the transactional data entry as well as kind of an admin hybrid role. And I kind of, and then we just, in a sense, really what it's doing is looking at what is the need? What do we need to do to elevate, certain people that are, have certain key abilities to their highest function. But also just looking at what are unmet needs, what do we need to do to capture opportunity and avoid ceilings? And so, I think of it as, our CAS or client advisory services team, there's various roles we have in that group and that we keep adding to that group. And then we have certain specialty, real technical specialties we might hire people for related to those services. And then we have marketing, sales, just to support our, our contacts with clients. We also have tech and innovation. So trying to keep focus there. So we keep moving forward techs. And then we have firm ops. And so depending on where, it's really thinking about where's the pain point here? What, what would help us? What's going to help us move forward? Do we need an HR person? Do we need another ops person to help out, that main ops person? And so it's a little bit of a, and also just asking and just kind of spending a lot of time thinking what's the next most important role? Because to get from 25 to 50, you have to start with 26. And so you don't want to hire 26, as the 48th role. You want to hire in the right sequence based upon what is going to move you forward and what's going to take away pain points and what's going to, just bring it all together a lot better.
Yeah. So just a couple of things you said. It's team building and creating new roles is iterative, meaning it's just that one next step. Right. Which means, which feels a little freeing because it means I don't have to figure out 50 people. I only need to figure out the 26th one. And which means I get to iterate my way after that to 50. That's a little bit freeing. But it's also the second thing you're saying is very innovative, which that's the part I love. We get to actually make up whatever we think it may be that would solve the problem of a limited organization. If we want to take the top off of it and let it grow, a role a lot of times is what can break that growth ceiling, and you get to make it up. It means you may get it wrong. But are you better at getting it right when you create a new role than you used to be when you created new roles? I hope so.
I mean, I liked how you put it in terms of we got to make it up. But in a sense, when we started, there wasn't, CAS as an area wasn't really a super well-known concept. There was write-up, which is after the fact. There was people doing accounting in firms, but it wasn't really there. And the way we kind of made it up as we go is we would just think about what the role name was, So for example, we have a tech and innovation facilitator, because that's what we needed, and now we can't, the tricky part of that is we can't just put that. Sometimes it's harder to just put that on, on the job boards because people are like, what?
What is that? I don't even know. You made it up.
And business advisor is another one we have. It's like, that's what we want people to be doing is advising businesses. And so, but we put that out there and people are, it's kind of competing against accountant 1 and accountant 2. And so we sometimes put in brackets when we're listing the position, it's this name and this name. So people kind of get, roughly a similarity, but we also don't want people kind of stuck in that mindset of what that prior role was, because so much historically of accounting is transactional and it's, compliance based. And that's, kind of the history of where it's been. And certainly it has to be done, but more and more it's going to be handled by AI and, automation. And we really need to focus on advisory, to stay relevant using technology, not competing with it.
Yeah, I love that, and I love how you're creating roles and titling them what you want them to be, and then you have to compete with a market's perception of what a title means to the market overall, and you have to mesh them together. So you're putting titles in parentheses to kind of go, here's what I mean to you. That's that's so interesting. Well, as you're because y'all Richtr is an advisory firm, is it this is not a black and white question, I know, but is it easier to hire a really strong accountant and train them to be an advisor, or do you look for an MBA-based advisor that doesn't do accounting in your firm? They do advisement, and other people do the accounting. How do you think about getting advisors into your firm? Because you can advise all of your clients all day long, but you rarely actually get to, because you have such a big firm. You got to train people to do it. How do you go? Which role or which person's background do you know you can help them grow into an advisor more than others, if you know that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have different roles, and so a little bit it depends on the level of the person. And so we generally, if people are going to be doing the accounting piece, they need to have, especially since we work with a lot of companies that have, you have to be able to get the accounting right. It really helps to have that foundation. But we also we have enough ability now that we have, some scale to be able to move people into where they're effective. Some people are really good with client relationships, and some people are really good technically, and others, so we a little bit just are looking for really strong people that are passionate about what they do, and learning and growing over time. And we a little bit shift what they're doing and to try to play to their strengths over time. So we do really like that. We kind of almost like the combination of both of those, kind of having that decent, kind of accrual accounting, kind of strong bookkeeper, CPA background, or, having an MBA background and being good with forecasting and just that type of thing, and can be really helpful too. But we're almost kind of doing a lot of our own training in-house and teaching skills over time, because it's even if someone has some of these strengths, there's so much to learn based upon what we're doing and the technology we're using and who our clients are and what their needs are.
And so I've been in the profession for 30 years. You've probably been in it longer than me. And now we're hiring and creating roles that people don't come to us knowing. So the training part of what we have to do as firm owners it's way stepped up than it used to be. At y'all's size, do you have a person that does the training and is always training? Do you have one person doing that, or is that embodied in somebody's role?
Right. Well, we're actually, one of these things we're kind of reached a point where we're starting to circle back to processes. So it's funny you mention it, because we're rebuilding. We're kind of reassessing how is our training set up for onboarding as well as just, for our team over time. So, but to get to it, we have one person that's kind of managing the process, and there's some of it we have set up as self-study and videos, or making sure people have certifications. And we also spread it out amongst the team that, it's a little bit of chance to get to know others on the team, but we're different people are champions of different technology and expertise and so forth. And so different people handle it, and there's different steps. And then over time, mentoring is a big part of it. We're just, there's a lot of just feedback and training and trying to, help get our team really strong over time. Really helping people mature, I guess, is what you're doing. And I know I'm not matured yet, but the maturing I have done in life has taken a long time to do. So that's the long-term investment you have in team when you start to build a team. So it's tough when they don't stay, or you find out they're not right for your firm. Right. That's so costly. But a person that stays, they just become culturally embedded,
and they become the best trainers sometimes, and they become so valuable to your firm.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, as we're talking about, growth, creating new roles, I'm really interested in the leadership, portion of what you do, because we have a 3-person leadership team, Julie and I, and we lean on them so heavy, right? They're more in the weeds than we are, but they're less in the weeds than the team. And they're the eyes and ears, really. How do you start noticing the person that might need to become a leader? And how do you start developing them? Or do you want to hire a leader outside the firm to come in as a leader? How do you build a leadership team?
Right.
That's a big question.
I mean, generally, no, it's a great question or questions. I think we often practically look internally for, I'm open to outside leaders, but generally there's so much we're doing it's hard to just come from the outside and just pick it up and run with it. And I have 2, just wonderful partners I work with. One, Mylene is running our San Diego office, and not that we really separate between offices, but she's and she has a certain specialty area she works in, and then Anya here in Boulder, she oversees our firm ops, and so we collaborate a ton. We're constantly, trading ideas, collaborating, and so forth. So that's kind of our, some of our leadership team, but we're also, or kind of the lead part of our leadership team. But we also have, kind of a outstanding firm ops person that we work with, and other people in, other different roles that, I'm meeting with on a regular basis. So it's, so we don't have necessarily a lot of hard lines in terms of where our leaderships, we expect people even mid-tier to be leading by mentoring our team.
Okay.
So it's
nice. Well, now at some point you got to where you just couldn't do this as the only owner, right? So adding partners is a huge move, right? And I think people that have done that, Julie and I have been partners for about 7 years, I think, you realize how valuable that is, but also that it's a new relationship in your life to manage and to care about and things like that. How did you know it's time to have other owners that are invested like an owner, not just leaders that are employees?
Right.
How did you know that?
Right. Well, I think, at a certain point, it's almost like the question of how do people move up in general. And it's is you have people really mastered what they're doing, and they're not just doing their job. They're really adding and putting, they're bringing energy into the equation. And so when people reach a certain level of, there's technical expertise, there's, there's relationship expertise, there's, whether it's, within the firm, within the clients, there's personal maturity, you need to being able to trust someone, which, something kind of going back to my climbing days, it's something trust was being a part of a tight team, it's always been a really important part to me, knowing I can trust the people and, because it frees up energy, knowing they're going to do their job and, and they're going to be doing it really well. So it's a little bit, I don't know if I have a great answer, but it's a lot of those things coming together. And at a certain point, it's time to recognize their contribution and, that they, they deserve it, so to speak.
And then you kind of call them to that leadership position. It's like, hey, I think I'm seeing you as an owner here. Do you think you would want that same thing? And you kind of go through that, which is amazing. Well, let me ask you about the niches that you have chosen, and I mean, you have a few. They're all. I mean, you have some pretty complex ones, really. They're narrow enough to go, oh, that's real specific, right? It's not You don't have a niche like small business services like a lot of firms do. So
Right.
kind of what are your niches and where did they come from and how did you know to kind of narrow so much that you actually put them on your website? I think you have six. Okay. What are those?
Really four main,
Okay.
they're not, I wouldn't call them pure verticals, but they're really four niches. So one of them is aerospace and defense. And so that's, very technical, has, specialized needs. Another is life science, healthcare. Another is, really just the general world of AI, software, tech. And then the other is creative and service. But in a sense, what their commonality is, it's all companies that are innovation-based firms. Often they're R&D based. They're, in a sense, we consider them firms that are creating the future. But my thought in terms of creating niches, I really like the idea of a concept called blue ocean. In other words, you want to try to find that place where you can develop expertise and you can also, have, kind of, it's not like it's the red ocean where all the sharks are fighting over know, everything. And so I just think it's a really key thing for a firm to do is to try to really focus in on what, there's a lot of reasons you choose a niche, but, really focusing in on just what are you interested in? What's going to play to your market? What do you have the expertise for? What do you, where is the opportunity? Because not all niches are created equal. And, trying to figure out that whole combination. But I think it's one of those really key factors that can help a firm move forward, because once you do have a niche, you can do two things. One is you can become better at it. If you're trying to be an expert on everything, that's impossible. And so everyone knows that's not an expertise. That's just, the generalists. And so you get better at it. You can start then going to the conferences in the industry, really knowing the lingo, knowing the people, knowing the issues. It also just makes you much easier to communicate to those firms that are often looking for experts in their industry, how you're able to make a difference for them. And you can talk very specifically in a way that, few other firms can about how you can meet their needs. And so it's a key focus is to kind of figure out what you're going to focus on. And it doesn't have to be one. Some firms might say you just focus on one thing, like dentists or physicians or something. And on the other hand, I like we have a little bit of a bucket of innovation-based firms and then some kind of specialties within it. I guess the other thing of being a little broader is sometimes one industry, if you think of recessions, things can get really in one industry, and it may give you a little more resiliency over time to not just focus on one area. But it can be it can really help you. If you just
Now, at some point in Richter's history, was there a point you didn't have niches at all? Let's say it was just you when you started the firm, like aerospace and defense, I think you said is one of them. Did you get a client in that and you went, man, I like this. It's technical. It really, challenges me. And then you just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go get another one. Like, is that how it happened, or how did you find that one?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I mean, in a sense, just thinking a lot over time, just recognizing the importance of specializing, based on the reasons I mentioned, and then just trying to think what is the right fit, for us, as a firm. So, geography wise, for example, being in Boulder, Colorado, San Diego, there's a lot of technology based businesses in this area. And so it's just kind of in the air in both locations. And so a lot of life science in San Diego. We also have a fair presence in the Bay Area. So thinking about what's in our markets, because it's a little easier always to get something right in your market rather than
for sure,
a geography market. A little bit also is just trying to think what we liked, what kind of firms, it's certainly wouldn't be the thing for most firms, because some of the environments can be really challenging or really technical, and that may not be
and
you know,
difficult.
the
Yeah.
thing. And yeah. So it's really trying to weigh it all out and what niches are good. You know, some firms might not value, or, you know, or may not have the, you know, the stability that you need. But I think most niches have possibilities, but you want to make sure, you know, being with a construction firm as a niche versus real estate or restaurants, you know, they're very different than others, you know, like marketing firms or so it's a little bit about, what do you want as a firm, and what can you service and be really good at, and just trying to weigh it all together. What works?
And some of the, I mean, you can choose, you know, some markets that won't pay like a premium value-based price to you for, you know, real estate is probably a little more red market. Dentists also, you know, firms really just, a lot of them do that kind of work. Aerospace and defense is pretty technical, I'd imagine. So if you go more narrow in a place that has more blue ocean, I guess you hopefully can ask for a more premium value price because there's not many of you that have niched into that vertical. Do you think about what the market will pay as also when you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's a factor. It needs to be, you know, it needs to be sustainable, and it needs to be, you know, it needs to work in the big picture. Because if a market doesn't pay, then you can't pay your people well, and therefore you don't have good people. You can't take care of your clients well, and so others, some are much better than others in terms of, you know, providing opportunity. But some of the opportunity is just also how you structure it. It's not, you know, if different firms could approach it in different ways. But I think you know, if I was going to look at where opportunity is, you know, verticals are one, but also the size of the company you're working with can make a difference too. It's often firms of one can have a hard time paying for everything they need. And so even though you may be able to change the world, it's very different than a firm of 100, for example. And it's just a lot of you know, market or client size can make a lot of difference too.
Yeah, that makes sense. You do have GovCon on your website. What's that phrase mean? Kind of describe that to me. I've not heard that before.
Right. So GovCon is government contracting, just kind of
that makes sense.
Fancy way to say that.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, companies that have government contracts. And that type of thing. That's kind of a specialty need when you're dealing with companies that, you know, they may be life science or they may be aerospace defense. But if you're dealing with the government funding and contracts, there's, you know, there's needs there.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So, you know, when I would hear in the Iraq war, the federal government would hire security contractors to go and, you know, provide security. Maybe they have GovCon needs, I guess, government contractor type funding. And so I guess government requires certain kinds of financial reporting to look certain way. It gets coded in very particular ways. So that's what that means, I guess. And do you have team that are experts in that? Like you want them to lean into that discipline? Is that kind of how you build a role maybe around that vertical?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, you're looking to build out certain skill sets or collaborate with others outside the firm that have skill sets that you don't have. And so that's essentially what we've done, is tried to focus on where there's very specific technical needs. You know, we want to make sure we're able to meet those needs. And so we either have to build it in-house through learning and training, and or we have to bring someone from the outside, or we need to collaborate with someone to meet those needs. But the key is, you know, if you want to be an expert and you want to have a niche, you need to be able to meet the client's needs. Otherwise, you know, you're not really an expert. You're just someone that's showing up.
Right. Yeah. And we don't want to show up. So, okay, we're coming to the end, and I kind of want, you know, some of your advice, James, on just, you know, building firms. And you know, I think one thing we need to do as firm entrepreneurs is really run our firms in such a way that's an example to our clients. That is, we can't help them and advise them if we run shoddy firms. basically.
Right.
So do you feel the weight and the burden of running your company really well as really an example to what your clients can follow and do what you do?
Right. Well, in a sense, we all, I guess there's that classic saying, what is it? The cobbler's children
Yeah.
don't have shoes, because
Right.
the cobbler's so busy making them
Mm-hmm.
for everyone else. But it can be easy to fall into that. But I think, there's that saying that's just so critical to remember is it's important to work on your firm, not just in your firm. And
Yeah.
so that's something we're always trying to do. We're really trying to make sure that we're essentially living a lot of the lessons, that we're helping our clients with. We're
Yeah.
bringing in, a lot of the same tech stack. We're bringing
Yep.
in, just trying to be, very tech forward, very efficient, very, having regular reporting, information cycles, trying to be strategic and smart, trying to, have our, take care of our team,
Yeah.
be, client focused, trying to address all the different areas. So we do spend a lot of time, also working on the firm, not just in it for our
Yeah.
clients.
Okay. And you
So,
now have team that are exclusively focused on helping run your organization well, like that
right.
operational
Yeah.
team, which
Yeah.
I think a lot of firms they miss and forego the value when it's time to hire that operational. Sometimes it starts out in an administrative role or something, somebody that can handle
Right.
really the intense movement of the knowledge and stuff we have to manage in firms that grow.
Yeah.
Well, so just some other things that in our profession we're hearing a lot about. There's not as many people taking the CPA exam, or not even that. They're not even going into accounting as much. But
Right.
still, I
Yep.
feel there's a lot of hope for our profession. Like, what opportunities do you see maybe in the next 2 to 3 years of what this profession could go after, tackle, accomplish, and really make a pretty
Right.
big impact on
Yep.
entrepreneurs in business?
Right. No, great question. Something I dream about and think about constantly. Where are we going? Where's
Yeah,
the opportunity?
yeah.
I think, kind of to flip that or to give the reverse answer to that, it's definitely not in doing transactional,
Okay.
work and so forth. It's really about, at the base level, it's really about leaning into technology
Yeah,
and advisory services and
yeah,
addressing real business needs that clients have out there. And
yeah,
so we can make a true transformational difference. We're not just an expense, kind of a cost area. We're a place that when they invest, they're going to get some return
yeah,
on their collaboration with us. We're their, growth partners over time. So that's at a fundamental level, I'd say that's one. There's all sorts of, AI is just really going to
yeah,
be a real factor, I think. And so
yeah,
really leaning into AI, I think's pretty, in automation and
yeah,
really just using technology, integrating it and, and trying to automate everything we can that's transactional, not compete with technology, and try to really think of how do we build our advisory focus. And then also there's, new industries emerging.
yeah, for sure.
And, so I'm just thinking um, there's a whole Bitcoin, so you have people
Yeah,
into crypto, doing accounting.
huge.
There's some are specialists there.
Yeah,
There's marijuana, type
yeah,
companies, there's all
yeah,
sorts of these new industries can be new opportunities for people. It
yeah.
used to be, you have to be Pablo Escobar's, accountant
That's
to,
right. No
now
more.
you now people, it's not my thing, but
Right.
I see people, make building practices around
Yeah,
specialty needs that, emerging industries have and so
yeah,
forth.
yeah. And
And
that
and
just keeps coming, right? The new
yeah,
industries just are going to keep coming now in this world of,
yeah,
technology creating brand new things that didn't exist before. So,
yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
Well, how about Richtr? You kind of mentioned, kind of y'all's goal to move to 50. Maybe what are the next things you're kind of looking to do over the next year or two in your own firm?
Right. I mean, one of the things we're just taking, we kind of are taking a little bit of a look at all of our different processes and, in technology at this point. We're almost kind of like kind of moving along, you're building, you're doing, and then it's a time you need to relook at everything you're doing almost afresh and try to make sure that your approach, your systems are solid. So that's what we're doing at a firm ops perspective. And, we're looking hard there. We're also just trying to build out, our kind of really focus on how we meet the needs of our clients in our different niches. And so continuing to build out those relationships and build out our capabilities in terms of meeting our clients' needs in that realm. And so those are probably two of the biggest areas. And then we're always looking at new technology. It's just constant.
Yeah. And all of that stuff is so disruptive. It can be so disruptive to kind of take a full-on diagnostic of your own company, and then start to even do surgery on your company and pull things out and put things in. And it really it can be discombobulating to a team. But sometimes you have to do it, kind of rip out the old wiring and put in some new wiring, and it gives fresh energy. But it's such a hard thing to commit to. It's like I'm going to disrupt everything, but the value in a 3 to 5 year period can be can move you along at a quicker pace with whole new wiring.
That's very, very true.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, you just have to do it. You can't just get too comfortable. Otherwise, you stagnate. So
that's right. You do. You can stagnate in this business if you're not kind of disrupting yourself, I guess, which is super hard to commit to. You're like, that's what I don't want to. I don't want to disrupt my own firm. I want it to just kind of stay easy, but that is not how you stay innovative. So very cool. Well, cool. Well, James, you're a sample of innovation for us. So I really appreciate you kind of sharing how you go through leadership, team building, and role building and niches, and really appreciate you being on the Thrivecast with us, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to. No, glad to. Thanks for trying to share. Basically helping practitioners come along. It's pretty valuable. We all learn, from other people along the way, and everything we can do to unlock is just super valuable to others out there. So
very cool.
Keep it on. So.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on the Thrivecast. We'll have another great episode coming up next month, and thank you for following us for 11 years now. We'll see you next month. Take care.